And God doesn't like that. God is selfish, and he is not going to bring someone into your life who is going to take his positioning in your life, because that just doesn't make sense. We hear a lot of people talking about kingdom spouse. You know, you have to find your kingdom spouse, 10 ways to find your kingdom spouse. And some of these relationships are not of the kingdom of light. And there are a few different ways that we can see this. So I just came up with a list of 5 ways that you can know that your relationship, even if it feels good, even if it makes you happy, may not actually be of God, and therefore not the relationship you're meant to be in to get you to purpose. The first sign that you need to look out for that might let you know that your relationship is not of God is if that relationship leads you away from God. It only makes logical sense that if God gives you something, gives you somebody who you're supposed to be in relationship with, that relationship with that person is going to strengthen your relationship with him. Because ultimately, God is the reason why we are doing this. Our marriages, of course, for children, for happiness, for companionship, but it's also very kingdom purposed. Coming together as a union is going to reap more benefits, reap more fruits for you as individuals together, and ultimately for the kingdom. So God is not going to bring you somebody into your life who is going to take you away from him. The second sign that your relationship might not be from God is if it is full of confusion. When you're with someone, you should know to what end, where this relationship is going, timelines, and all other types of clarity. But if you're feeling like you're in this lukewarm state where you're in limbo, do they like me? What are we? All of these questions are constantly being asked, but there's never really a definitive or directed answer. That might be a sign that this relationship is not from God, because God is not the author of confusion. When two people come together who are aligned and purpose, there is going to be clarity. This doesn't mean that that person's going to see you and say, I knew you were my wife from the day I met you. No, not necessarily, right? You know, those things do happen, but a lot of times it can be creepy. And instead, what we're really looking for is someone who has vision. Hey, I like you. I'm interested in getting to know you. I'm interested in getting married. These are the goals. I'm not just dating you and taking you out to eat for vibes, for fun, for random dating culture. I have these intentions. This is where I see my life going. And if you and I are compatible, I would love for us to do this together. In that way, that doesn't even guarantee that this relationship is going to make it to the end, but at least you're in a situation where you actually understand what you're doing there. There are realistic timelines, and there's also clarity on the path forward, and therefore clarity on whether or not that path is actually leading somewhere where you or the other person wants to go. The third sign that your relationship might not be from God is if there is no peace. And when I say peace, I don't mean that there will never be disagreements, but there is a level of calm security that you feel when you're with someone you're meant to be with. And this peace is the peace that the Lord gives us, the peace that surpasses all understanding. So even in the midst of inevitable disagreements or times where you feel like you're both not fully aligned, there's still a foundation of peace that keeps you both together and allows you to see that, you know, this still makes sense. And yes, we might be in a rocky patch, but we can continue forward through communication because everything still feels right. If there's not peace in your relationship, if you don't feel secure, if you don't feel trusting of that person, if you don't feel that the totality of who you are has a home with the person you're with, chances are that relationship is not of God. And even when I say the totality of who you are, it's not just the good parts. When you're with someone, when you're in relationship that is covenant and destiny affirming, you bring your vulnerabilities to that space as well. So there might be certain things that you're trying to work on, that you're trying to improve, and being in relationship with this person gives you a safe space to air out the places where you need to improve so that that person can come in agreement with you and you both can work on it together. And this is where that peace comes in. You don't want to be with someone, you're not meant to be with someone where you feel like you have to hide off critical parts of yourself in shame because that person doesn't have capacity for it. You're supposed to feel safe and bring it to that person, and both of you are supposed to work on it together to grow. The fourth sign that your relationship might not be from God is if it leads you away from purpose. God does not give us good things in exchange for other good things. You know, He gave His Son's life for us so that we can have life and have it more abundantly. So if there is a purpose on your life, as we all have, once you've discovered what that purpose is, what you're meant to do, what you were called on this earth to do, the relationship you have is going to further rise and put that light on your purpose. God is not going to give you marriage, spouse, companionship, love, and take away purpose that He put in your life. Like, that is not the trade off of God. That is not what God does. So if you are in relationship with someone and you find that since I've gotten close to this person, since I've started dating this person, all of the important things in my life, the things that I know I'm supposed to do, have fallen off by the wayside, chances are they might not be the one. This doesn't mean that things are not going to pivot and shift. Of course, there are different seasons in our lives, and the attention and the energy that we put on certain parts and priorities within our lives will shift based on our timing and where we are. But your God-given purpose, what you are called on this earth to do, should not completely disappear when you're with someone. Their life is important. You're supposed to be a partner with them, all of that good stuff. But you shouldn't be a partner to the point where you dwarf and completely eradicate your life in pursuit of everything that's important to them. Because what happens if you do that? That person just became an idol. We are supposed to be in pursuit of what God's call on our life is, what God's purpose for us is, what Jesus Christ died for. But if you push all that to the wayside to just focus on what this person is doing, they have become your God. And God doesn't like that. God is selfish, and He is not going to bring someone into your life who is going to take His positioning in your life, because that just doesn't make sense. And at the end of the day, those kind of relationships can be really tricky and faulty, because when you spend all of your time building up somebody else's stuff, in the event that that person walks away, you end up realizing that they took all the stuff with them, and all of that energy and effort and faith that you were putting into building this thing that you thought was a we is going to be yoinked from you. And then you'll realize that, wait, I actually have nothing because I was just so focused on this person. But when you focus and make sure that your purpose in God is being fulfilled, you are doing for God, and in that, God is fulfilling you. And God is not going anywhere. God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So you never have to worry about all of that effort being yoinked, because you are doing it for the kingdom, and also it's your personal calling, versus leaving your whole life to just follow somebody else's vision for their life without having one for your own. And finally, your relationship is not from God if you have to manipulate to get it. Anyone who has to be coerced, cajoled, tricked, and schemed for is not from God. When God has a relationship for you, when God knows that this is the person you are aligned with, you are destined for, you're not going to have to sit there and convince them, because then who is in control? You. And when it's from God, who is in control? God. So if you find yourself having to scheme, having to manipulate, jumping up and down to try to convince this person that you are the one for them, I would really suggest that you take a step back. And when I say take a step back, I mean fully retreat. Stop calling, stop texting, take a step back and just go back to God and say, God, if this is the person that you say is mine, this is the person that you have for me, then I trust that they are going to see the vision too. It's like, you know, those people who will DM you or see you at church and say, God said you were my wife. Well, God has to give me the same message too. God doesn't work in that way where one person's going to know and I'm just going to take your word. Like, we seek confirmation. And if something is truly from God, His hand is going to be the one that does it, so that at the end of the day, He gets the glory. So if you like somebody, if you think they're the person for you and it's not working out, or they don't seem to see it yet, resist the urge to try to manipulate them into it, because whatever you get by your own hand will have to be sustained by your own hand. But what God does for you, what God gives you, God will sustain. And I don't have the emotional bandwidth, the willingness, or the capacity to want to sustain something outside of God's will, because it's going to tear me apart. It's going to tear you apart. So if you feel yourself feeling this manipulative energy, step back and let it be. And then if that's what God wants for you, God is going to enlighten that person to see the value, the fact that you're the one for them. And if he doesn't, it's because he has somebody else who is even more aligned with you. And when you and that person finally meet one another, you'll understand why it didn't work out with everybody else. So I hope that this helps you and gives you a little bit of clarity as you're dating, as you're getting to know people, to ensure that God stays the center of all parts of your life. Thank you so much for sticking with me till the end. If you liked this video, like. If you loved it, subscribe. And if you think that these signs would be helpful to somebody in your life, please share this video with them so that they can get insight too. And as you go through dating and everything else in your life, remember to continue to be kind to yourself, because you're a work in progress and you're making progress. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.